Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Feck here, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Simon Feck here. Today, we're going to do a video for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be an educational video, ladies and gentlemen. How to become an MMA Youtuber, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Not only when you do fight predictions, you should give predictions to all the fights, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. And you should predict. If you're going to predict the fights, make sure you're. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you predict the fights correctly, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go around predicting the fights and they're wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Why would you predict the fights and you don't even predict them correctly, ladies and gentlemen? I want to start this stream over, but I'm not gonna, ladies and gentlemen. Unfreaking believable, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here, what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen, the first of the series of videos, how to become an MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. The very first lesson right here, Combat Casualty, Idaho, gives us our first lesson here. Remember, this is just for educational purposes only, ladies and gentlemen. But right here, Idaho is going to teach you the rhythm of saying and To become a great MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen, you have to say and a lot, ladies and gentlemen, when you're given fight predictions here, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if I can keep up on the pace, but every time Idaho says or I'm going to hit the bell, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if I have the cardio, but here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the pace that you need to set to become a great MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. And make sure you don't wind up having a dead channel, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be fast. We're going to be ringing the bell every time Idaho says or ladies and gentlemen.
What is going on, everybody? Combat Casual back again with another pick'em show for UFC Vancouver. That's right. My first pick of the night will be one Miss Melissa Croden taking on Tainara Lisboa. Bantamweight Melissa Croden, new to the UFC. She has quite a few finishes in the weight class, fighting in reputable promotions such as LFA. Tainara Lisboa, not making waves in the weight class. She has some finishes. That would be against Jessica Rose Clark, who's not in the UFC anymore. I'm going to pick Melissa Croden here. I'm going to pick her by decision. I think that this will be a good showcase for her to kind of get some hype going for her career in the UFC. Next fight we'll be predicting will be Azamat Bekayev versus Yusri Beldori. Sorry, ruined that name. Yusri got a win off the tennis series. He trains with Glover Teixeira over there in Connecticut. I am going to give him some credit. I think it's possible he survives the fight to the end. But I think Azamat Bekayev is a great-looking prospect at middleweight. Did really well in LFA before coming to UFC. He's already been knocking out some dudes. Fortunately, the Tough alumni from this most recent season. So yeah, I got high hopes for Azamat Bekayev, and I think it's basically be a showcase, unanimous decision win, if not a late round knockout. I think that that's very likely as well. But I'm on the safe side, take Azamat by Bekayev. Either way, I think it's basically a lock for this card. I have Stephanie Luciano beating Ravenna Oliveira by decision. Ravenna Oliveira, he has a loss, and that would be to Lisboa earlier on the card. I think Stephanie Lucinda is all around the better fighter. I have her winning via decision. Kyle Pekelec versus Drew Dober, man, must-win fight for both of these guys. Kyle Pekelec never won a fight in the UFC. He did have a run earlier this year. In 2019, he actually lost 2 fights before getting the short notice call to face Benoit Saint Denis. A fight in which he basically got out grappled and, obviously losing handily to BSD, but not looking super bad in the process. Drew Dober won 1 fight out of his last 5. So he's in a tough spot. I think Drew Dober is another one of those get a knockout kind of guy. And I think he will eventually get the knockout. Some cumulative damage, and then he probably finishes him in the 3rd. I think it's going to be a tough fight for both men. I don't think Kyle has the striking acumen to hang with Drew Dober. Drew Dober, decent as far as takedown defense is concerned.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is how you become an MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to have a dead channel like the clown, ladies and gentlemen. But I broke the bell, ladies and gentlemen. But you have to make sure you say and a lot, ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is just for educational purposes, ladies and gentlemen. This was the first video in the series, How to Become an MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to it. I don't have the cardio for this. Let me tell you. And they already broke the bell, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that Drew Dober wins this fight by 5th round knockout. Sorry, Kyle. Danny Barlow versus Jordan Santos. Danny Barlow up a weight class. Didn't lose his last fight, as did Jordan Santos. I think that Danny Barlow's power is just kind of undeniable. He's got a
We'll take one back.
Exchange with Jordan Santos. That is kind of Jordan Santos' style. Kind of a brawler. And I think that'll be what leads to him getting a loss in this fight. I have Danny Barlow by 2nd round knockout. Bruno Silva versus Hong Sung Park. Obviously, Bruno Silva has faced some pretty good guys. Joshua Van and Manel Kopp in his last 2 fights, and they basically just sliced through him, destroyed him. The fight with Cody Durden was a very fun fight. One in which he almost got finished in, but then turned it around and got the finish on Cody Durden. He's a tough fighter. Can take some punishment, and then sometimes turn it around, sometimes not. He's very well rounded as well. But I think Hong Sung Park wins this fight. I'm not super high on Park. He's still very young. Don't know if he gets a finish in this one. Wouldn't be surprised if it was a late round finish by him. But I am going to pick Park via decision. I think Bruno Silva is going to be there trying to fight his way back into this by the 3rd round. But I think ultimately it'll be a unanimous decision for Mr. Park. Charles Jourdain versus Grant. Man, what a sweet fight this is going to be. Charles Jourdain obviously not having much success at featherweight, dropping down to bantamweight, getting a win over Victor Henry. I think this will be a very similar match to that one as well. I think Davey Grant is faster, better striker than Victor Henry. I think Victor Henry is a little bit better on the ground. But this is an incredibly tough fight to pick. Davey Grant, man, he's always that guy that you go, man, he's like 40 at bantamweight, but he still gets the job done. And he looked amazing against Damone Blackshear in his last fight. This is a tough fight for me to pick, but ultimately I am going to have to go with Charles Jourdain.
Right there, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want to have that long space right there. You don't want to have that long space. He went at least 26, maybe 24 seconds without saying or ladies and gentlemen. If you want to avoid having a dead channel, ladies and gentlemen, you got to throw them ahs and them ums in there, ladies and gentlemen. We broke the bell already, ladies and gentlemen. Rock the bells, ladies and gentlemen. Idaho, rock the bells, ladies and gentlemen. Educational purposes, how to become an MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. Besides, he needs to predict the whole card, ladies and gentlemen. And when you're going to predict the card, predict the fights correctly, ladies and gentlemen. That's a mistake a lot of people that do predictions. They go around and they predict, like 80% of them right. You got to predict them all right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get back to the odds and the ums, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have good cardio to give all the ums and the ahs, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Especially in Canada, they didn't give him the fight on one card against Sean Woodson, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. But yeah, I think Charles Jourdain just edges this one out. I think you'll see like a 29, 28 decision win for him. To go on the ground, it's going to be a tough one. He's going to have to game plan correctly, but I think ultimately he does get the job done. Kyle Nelson versus Matt Favola. Man, this is another tough fight for me. I mean, I thought Matt Favola retired, but apparently he's back. Taking a lot of damage. He's very chinny at this point. I think Matt Favola has one round in him to get it done against Kyle Nelson, which he very well could. But I am going to say Kyle Nelson wins this fight via decision. I think that Kyle Nelson's going to come in with a game plan that just kind of makes it that way. But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if either man gets a knockout. I think, again, if you're going to go Matt Favola, you go round one. If you're going to go a knockout for Kyle Nelson, just make sure it's second or third. Again, I am picking Kyle Nelson by decision just because I can't see exactly how he would get the knockout, like in my head, even though I do think it's very likely. So give me Kyle Nelson via decision. Could be a knockout, second or third round. Cody Gibson picking Ricky Lang. Two guys that have been in the UFC quite some time now. I'm going to pick Cody Gibson. I think he's just better everywhere. Fights at a higher pace. Doesn't have quite the power to be a finisher. He did submit Brian Kelleher, but Kelleher was well past his prime at that point. Yeah, these are pretty easy ones for me to predict. I think Cody Gibson would be a lock as well on this one. So yeah, give me Cody Gibson via decision. Ricky Lang never was that great in the UFC, and I think that the old guy Cody Gibson gets this one done. Next fight is Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Very interesting fight. Manon Fiorot obviously just losing a title fight to Valentina Shevchenko. A fight that I actually thought she won, but it was a very close match, and she did make it competitive, even if you don't think that she had won the fight. Regardless, Jasmine Jasudavicius, she's a strong grappler, and doesn't really go for the submission, but prefers the ground and pound, which I like a lot. I think that Jasmine Jasudavicius fights for a title at some point in her career. It's kind of a classic striker versus grappler match, and I think that the key to Jasmine winning this fight will be the takedowns. She's not able to get it. I think that Manon will win. I actually think this might be a split decision win for either woman. So yeah, but give me Jazzy J, especially in Canada. I think that the judges will favor her as well. Marlon Chito Vera taking on Eamon Zahabi. This is a very fun fight. I'm going to pick Zahabi by decision here. I think that the problem with Marlon is this does not.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can't have the gaps in there like that, ladies and gentlemen. You can't have like the 15-second gaps in there, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to become a YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen, you have to do the ahs and the ums, ladies and gentlemen.
Do enough until he does, and he knocks you out. But I think Eamon Zahabi's going to be there with the pressure. He's got a lot of power as well. I don't know if he's ever been finished in his career, but I think that he'll clearly just be on Marlon Vera's ass the entire fight, and he's going to win a very clear decision. But you never know, man. Chito is always a threat to knock somebody out with something crazy. So I think it'll be a fun fight, though.
Whoops.
Kevin Holland versus Michael Hunt, man. I mean, which Kevin Holland?
Ladies and gentlemen, just like this, if you're going to predict the Kevin Holland fight, ladies and gentlemen, you got to be able to predict the kick in the nuts, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to be a good MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen, I know today we're just focusing on saying enough ahs and ums, ladies and gentlemen, because people love it. They love when you say ah and a lot, ladies and gentlemen. But always predict the kick in the nuts, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
He shows up. Is it the Kevin Holland that gets a quick Dars? Is it the Kevin Holland that finds that crazy knock?
It's the Kevin Holland that loves a good swift kick in the nuts. That's the Kevin Holland that showed up, ladies and gentlemen.
At some point, that's very likely. I'm going to go with the more consistent fighter of the two, and that would be Mike a lot. I think that the wrestling is going to give Kevin Holland problems in this one. I don't think that Mike Malott is as dangerous as Kevin Holland is on the feet, but he is coming off of a knockout of Charles Radke. I think that was a good confidence builder for him. Again, you could see Kevin Holland pull something crazy off in this one, but again, I'm going to stick with the more consistent thing and Mike Malott getting a decision win. And then in your main event, Rainier DeRitter versus Brendan Allen. Another pretty easy fight for me to pick. Brendan Allen.
And when you get to the main event, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta say something like, and on the main event, make it eventful, ladies and gentlemen. Give a good or a good ladies and gentlemen.
Solid fighter all around. Fights at a pretty high pace. I just think that RDR is gonna clearly win just about every round. I don't really see a way for Brendan Allen to beat RDR. I think that he might hurt him at some point. But even then, I don't see RDR getting finished, which would pretty much be the only way for Brendan Allen to win this fight, in my opinion. RDR is a huge middleweight. Brendan Allen, not so much. But I am going to give Brendan Allen some credit. I say he survives to the final belt. And you just see RDR dominating the fight in the striking and in the grappling. So there you go. Those are my picks for this card. We do have a Tapology.
He's got a Tapology, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you sign up for that, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you want to be in the weeds, ladies and gentlemen, because right there, he had 2 wrong fights, right? Okay? And he didn't say enough ahs and ums, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't keep your attention, ladies and gentlemen. You got to throw in the ahs and the ums. But when you miss 2 fights, ladies and gentlemen, and predict them wrong, I mean, that's how you're going to stay with the dead channel, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Idaho's got a dead channel, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. So, also what you got to do is predict all the fights. I mean, why do you leave 3 or 4 fights out? It doesn't make a bit of sense, ladies and gentlemen.
If you get the most event wins by the end of the year, you will win $100. So please check out the Tapology League.
Oh my God, ladies and gentlemen. You can do Tapology for a complete year with the Combat Casualty of Idaho's YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. A whole year, and you can win $100, ladies and gentlemen. You gotta sit there and listen to him all year long, ladies and gentlemen. You couldn't pay me $100 to watch it to do it for 1 month, ladies and gentlemen.
We're gonna reset it every year.
Oh my God!
Yeah, those are the picks.
He's gonna do it year after year, ladies and gentlemen.
Of content on this channel.
My God! Idaho's gonna do this 7 days a week, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, he's gonna turn the button on and he's gonna talk, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone's worst nightmare, I see, ladies and gentlemen. And that's it. That's how you become a MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Let's see. I don't know if we're going to get to the chat right now. Let's see. 1 second. Let me line something up here, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get this set ready, ladies and gentlemen. Uh-oh. If you're going to become an MMA YouTuber, don't do it like Simon Feck, ladies and gentlemen. Simon Feck sucks balls, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what we got here. We got Crystal in here, ladies and gentlemen. But that's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. You got to say and a lot, ladies and gentlemen. What do we got here, ladies and gentlemen? We got Crystal in here, ladies and gentlemen. The clown says that I don't know how to do this, ladies and gentlemen. I guess he's right. I don't know how to do this. I see. Oh, so what you do is you click one and then you click the one that comes after it, ladies and gentlemen. There's gold, ladies and gentlemen. Crystal Miller, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how to make Crystal Miller. I don't know how to make her a mod there, Western. I don't know what I'm doing. Because I'm an idiot, ladies and gentlemen. Why are you picking on Idaho? I'm not picking on Idaho. Idaho is an example of how to do it, ladies and gentlemen. You got to have some ahs and some ums, ladies and gentlemen. And what you do is you don't want to tell everybody every fight, right? He only skipped about 4 fights, ladies and gentlemen. He actually did well. I mean, I think he only fubbed on 2 fights. That's not bad, ladies and gentlemen. My bad. I just tried to play by Simon's rules. Whoops. Uh-oh. I mean, I'll never get this right. You know what I'm saying? I can only see it on this other computer over here. It's too far away. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Crystal Miller's writing the show here. The whole story, ladies and gentlemen. Stop hitting the bell, you feathered feck. I'm sorry you recently pulled into the Hardee's drive-thru. Automatically priced. Oh, come on, ladies and gentlemen. And then this is one of those stupid ones, isn't it? Nope. Sound effect, would you like many viewers? I hate viewers, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so I can't believe we got people typing in here, ladies and gentlemen. Today was just educational purposes, ladies and gentlemen. Simon, you're reminding me of my intrusive thought syndrome I deal with. How did I accidentally push that button? Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Feck's out of his head, ladies and gentlemen. I hate to tell you that. Bell sucks, I'm out. See you later. What's he say? 800. Everyone's worst nightmare says 800. 800 on the bells, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, 800. I got it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so I accomplished the mission tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for showing up, ladies and gentlemen. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully it wasn't a failure. See you next time, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Simon Feck should practice this stuff before he does it. And make sure the sound's right and everything. The bell broke, ladies and gentlemen. Stupid bell, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, Combat Casualty. Combat Casualty is an example of being an MMA YouTuber, ladies and gentlemen, at the top, ladies and gentlemen, the very top. Idaho is like Simon Feck's here, and Idaho is way up here, ladies and gentlemen. ladies and gentlemen.